Hey everybody, how's it going? Matthew Kadish here, author of the Earthman Jack Space Saga, available over on Amazon.com. And we are going to be talking about Kevin Feige once more in this video. Yes, this has been a heck of a week for Kevin Feige and news concerning not only him, but also the Disney Studios, Lucasfilm, and Marvel. And the big news of the last couple of days over here on The Hollywood Reporter is that Sony and Disney have worked out their differences and reached a deal on Spider-Man. Now, you may remember, and if you don't, where have you been? A couple weeks back, the negotiations between Disney and Sony over the rights to Spider-Man kind of fell apart, with Sony deciding to walk away and do their own thing with the character and taking the character out of the MCU. And there was a big outcry over that, and rightfully so, because fans everywhere, they liked the MCU version of Spider-Man. They liked him being a part of that cinematic universe. They've liked what they've done with Tom Holland and the characters and stuff like that. And they wanted to keep Spider-Man with the rest of the Marvel heroes. And so after that initial public outcry, it appears that Disney and Sony kind of got back to the negotiating table and eventually hammered out a deal that was favorable to both parties and kind of gave Spider-Man the character, or at least this incarnation of him, a second chance to go back to the MCU and either close things out or continue on in the future. And we're going to be talking about this today. This is over at The Hollywood Reporter. It says, Spider-Man shocker, Disney, Sony striking a deal for one more movie. And this is by Aaron Crouch and Boris Kitt. And it says, the two studios are once again working together, with Tom Holland's hero set to star in 2 more films. Spider-Man is back in action after publicly parting ways over a deal gone south. Disney, Marvel, and Sony are back at the table and have struck a deal that would see Marvel produce another Spider-Man film for Sony. The new film even has a release date, July 16th, 2021. I am thrilled that Spidey's journey in the MCU will continue, and I and all of us at Marvel Studios are very excited that we're going to get to keep working on it, said Marvel topper Kevin Feige. Spider-Man is a powerful icon and hero whose story crosses all ages and audiences around the globe. He also happens to be the only hero with the superpower to cross cinematic universes. So as Sony continues to develop their own Spideyverse, you never know what surprises the future might hold. Now, Kevin Feige has just been knocking it out of the park this week. Not only has he been given his own Star Wars movie, he's been given back Spider-Man to at least incorporate into the MCU for 2 more films. And as part of this arrangement, basically, Marvel is going to be producing the 3rd in the Home trilogy that they've done with Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home. They always had a 3rd one planned, and that movie was put in doubt after the negotiations fell apart this last time around. But now that it's back on, it looks like Feige's going to get to round out that trilogy that he had planned for the new Spider-Man. But in addition to that, they get one more appearance of Spider-Man in an upcoming Marvel Cinematic Universe Disney movie. And I think that this is good news in the sense that it gives Marvel the chance to kind of send the character off in a satisfying way. So my guess is that either the next Sony movie or the next MCU movie that Spider-Man is in is going to set the stage for the character to possibly bow out of the cinematic universe in a way that satisfies fans, so that if they can't come to an agreement with Sony going forward, it makes sense that Spider-Man no longer appears in the MCU instead of just having him disappear. It would also give Sony a chance to maybe reboot or reincarnate the character in some way, shape, or form in their proposed Spider-Verse series of movies, which I think is ridiculous that they're going forward with, but I'm not in charge over at Sony, so what do I know? But this is the good news here, is that basically It looks like Disney has reached a deal to co-produce the Spider-Man movies. They're going to put up a quarter of the budget for a quarter of the profits. They're going to be running point on the production of the movie, just like they did with Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home. And basically Sony gets to keep all the bulk of the box office, and Disney still gets to keep all the merchandising and licensing rights to the character. So in addition to that, Sony is also looking to kind of bolster the value of the Spider-Man in their video game properties, because Sony gets a cut of that. It's a Sony produced game. And they've also got other movies that are kind of tied to the Spider-Verse, Venom sequels in the works, Morbius. There's rumors of various other Spider-Verse tie-ins like the Sinister Six, Kraven the Hunter, Spider-Gwen, a bunch of other related Spider-Man related movies that Sony wants to start pushing out in their own ridiculous cinematic universe. We'll see how those go. But overall, I feel like Marvel fans, MCU fans, Spider-Man fans, fans of all shapes and sizes should be very happy about this news, because I know that I personally was quite disappointed when the news broke that Sony and Disney couldn't come to an agreement over Spider-Man. And frankly, it was a miracle that this deal ever happened to begin with. Like, it's never... I think it's pretty unprecedented, because never before have I heard of studios sharing, IPs in such a way. But I'm glad that it happened, and I'm glad that even though things broke apart a while back, they're now coming back together, and we're going to get to see a conclusion to the Spider-Man home trilogy, and possibly a bowing out of Spider-Man from the MCU, a graceful bowing out that we may not have gotten had this deal not been finalized. Now, that being said, there is the possibility that, Sony and Disney could come to a new agreement for the character after these next two movies are completed. I kind of doubt it. I think that Sony is looking at this as like, okay, we're going to finish our run with Disney, and then we're going to go off in our own direction, and we're going to keep all the profits, yada, yada, yada. So I would be surprised if the deal gets renewed after this, but it's not out of the realm of possibility if Sony wants to ride the coattails of Disney and the MCU going forward. I know Disney is probably very interested in continuing to associate with the character, drive the licensing, drive the merchandising, and use him in the other movies, kind of like how they're doing with Hulk, even though Hulk is technically licensed by Universal because they're using it in movies other than his own movie. They're able to use the Hulk in the MCU. So they found a little loophole there. They might be able to find a loophole with this in some way, shape, or form. I kind of doubt it. But, the possibility is there that Spider-Man could continue in the MCU. I just kind of doubt that that will happen. I think that these next two movies are the last movies that we're going to get with Disney involved with Spider-Man, at least for quite some time, barring Disney buying out Sony Pictures, or somehow the rights to the license relapsing back to Marvel and Disney. I mean, who knows at this point. But I personally am very excited about this news, and I would like to know what you guys think about it. Are you happy that Spider-Man's returning to the MCU? Do you think it's great that Kevin Feige is going to get to produce at least one more Spider-Man film, possibly two? Let me know in the comments, and as always, for more movie, TV, and entertainment news and analysis, please subscribe to my channel. This is Matthew Kadish. I'll catch you in the next video.